Thank you for joining us for this special Q&A session with Cameron Cozzens. Cameron gave a great presentation just a few minutes ago called Distance or Disconnect, Coming Together When Your Team is Apart. Cameron, thank you so much for joining me. We got a number of great questions, and I'd like to start right away with question one. And we got this question from several people. You shared the germ metaphor, and a number of people asked, can you just dig a little more into that? What is the germ metaphor? What does that mean?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately in preparation for this webinar, and it's interesting because metaphors are so powerful in and of themselves. They allow us to connect on different levels, and so, gosh, part of me wants to answer that by saying how far be it from me to actually say what the answer to that is, because it really begs a deeper question. What is that germ that I am carrying? And it requires me to really introspectively consider what that germ is. Some days that germ that I am carrying might be that self-focus, might be this justification style that I talked about, where I'm focused on myself and others are objects to me, and so that it might connect with me in that moment that might be the germ. In a metaphor, one could ask, so what is the thing that is being passed to others? And again, it's so important that each individual considers, what is that thing that I might be passing on? I know in my life, what I have found is that when I become self-focused, when others are objects to me, whether that's, I see them as vehicles or obstacles or irrelevancies, that tends to invite them to see me and to see others in that same way. And so perhaps a metaphor in my life as I consider this right now, that perhaps it's my inward style that in maybe inviting others to be inward themselves. And so, gosh, it's far from me to tell you exactly what that might mean. And so I love the question, and it's the great question to ask. And I almost don't want to rob people of the introspection that will come from just asking that question themselves. What is the germ that I am carrying that might be making things harder as I might be passing that on to others?
I love that. Lance asked, what are good strategies and tactics for developing and maintaining cohesive teams during social distancing? And I think that question applies not just right now. Teams are going to continue to be working remotely, but I imagine it largely applies to in-person as well, face-to-face.
Yeah, we've been getting this question a lot. I've in conversations with clients of ours that as we check in with them or they check in with us, have asked that very same question. And gosh, there's a lot of things that come to mind. One of the things, Sarah, and you're aware of this, one of the things is something that we started recently during this pandemic at the Arbinger Institute. We, of course, like most other companies around the world, we are working most of the company in a distributed fashion. And so we do a lot of meetings virtually. And one of the things that we have started is once a week, at the end of our weekly meeting, what we'll do is we'll configure breakout sessions, just random breakout sessions where we can be randomly broken into these groups of 2 or 3 people, sometimes 4 people. And it's always a surprise every week. And who am I going to be paired with this week? And it gives us an opportunity at the end of the day just to kind of let our hair down and to get to know each other in ways that we're not in formal meeting settings. And I get to learn things about you and about others that I'm not able to learn because most of our engagements in a virtual setting are structured. And so to answer that question, I think whether we're working virtually or even when we're in the same office together, that it's appropriate to connect with people on not just on a level around the common goal that you're working on, but also to be able to connect with them in ways that you're curious about what they're going through. You're curious about what their goals and objectives are in the office. You're curious about ways in which you might be making things harder for them. And so to have an opportunity to just connect like that, whether it's virtually or whether it's in person at the water cooler at the end of the day. I think those are important things to remember.
I gotta say, Cameron, people will be surprised what happens when you let your hair down.
Yeah, right.
Our next question, Julie asked, we're all trying to improve personally, professionally, organizationally. Where does Arbinger fit into that organizational plan?
You know, I was recently asked that question by one of the leaders that we were working with. We've just begun working with this large organization, and it's a great question. What this work does, what Arbinger's work, how Arbinger's work is different from others, is that other organizations tend to focus on the behaviors. They tend to train around specific skills, specific behaviors that the people in the workforce need to implement in order to achieve a greater result. And while behaviors are immensely important, at Arbinger, we believe that there's something deeper than behavior, something that drives behaviors. And so we oftentimes use an analogy, and this is the analogy I used just last week with this leader. I said that the trainings that you've had in your organization are like seeds that you're planting in your organization. They're behavioral seeds, and by themselves, they can be really good. But what often happens when we plant seeds is that we become discouraged when those seeds don't grow. And those seeds may not be growing in your organization because of the soil. The soil may not be fertile. The soil, in fact, in many organizations might be toxic. And what is it that makes the soil toxic in organizations? It's this germ that we've been talking about, this self-focus that people bring to their lives. They're carrying it. Everybody in our organization is carrying it. Everybody in our organization, from the leader on down to every single person, to one degree or another, carries this same germ. They're causing problems that they don't know they're causing because of these self-justifying images that they have. And so the work that Arbinger does, it actually works at the soil level. What we do is we prepare the soil in an organization. We invite people to consider how they might be part of the problem. We invite them to start seeing those around them as people, not as objects. And once that starts to happen, once we inject radical self-awareness into an organization, and people begin seeing their coworkers and their customers and their bosses, their direct reports, as people and not as objects, what happens is that soil becomes well prepared. And so then when you plant behavioral seeds, what happens is those seeds flourish. Because when my mindset is outward and I'm focused on an organizational mission and not on just on my results, it enables all of those other seeds that we're planting to really blossom and go forward. So the work that we do is in preparation for it really gets at the culture of your organization.
So we got a very specific Arbinger question from Brad regarding our Arbinger workshops and bringing Arbinger into your organization. He asked, should a few of us come to a public workshop? Should we have Arbinger come on site? What's the difference, and how do we know which one to do?
That's it. That question from Brad is one that is often asked, and we get people that want to know, look, what's better, to attend a workshop? And we have these public workshops that pre-COVID were on site and now are all virtual, and we have people coming to them almost every other week. We have a virtual workshop now. The difference between attending a virtual workshop with your coworkers is that it brings people from all industries, from all walks of life, from all over the world in our virtual settings. And so you're going to see different perspectives, and you're going to see how our work applies in those different challenges in different industries, for example. When we come on site or when we do a virtual workshop with an organization, what it allows us to do, for example, as a facilitator, I would prepare in a different way, because I'm going to be working with the organizational leader, and I'm going to try to understand what are the organization's goals and objectives and challenges. And so that on-site workshop, that intact team, that workshop with an intact team, will be our principles built around the actual challenges that you are facing in your organization. So it enables us as an organization to address problems that are specific, the problems that you're specifically challenged with. And so oftentimes intact teams find that as a rich opportunity, for example, in an off-site environment where where they can really spend time tackling their problems and doing it through the lens of an outward mindset.
Where does our executive coaching fit into that?
So our executive coaching is really a service that we offer that enables individuals and leaders to really have an accountability session with a master coach around this work. This work, it for me has impacted my life, has been transformative for me when I first encountered it. Now it's been a decade ago when I first encountered this work. It's been transformative to me, and in that journey was specific to the Arbinger coach that I had that would help me on a bi-weekly basis. And we can do them weekly, we can do them every other week. And it's a check-in session where with my coach, I can share the challenges, the people-related challenges that I might be facing in the moment. And so a good implementation coach is one that is going to invite me to take a step back and consider things that I'm not seeing, and provide maybe suggestions of how I might not be seeing things clearly, how I might be part of the problem. And I have found those implementation check-ins, those implementation sessions, absolutely critical for when I was a leader. And in the work now that we do with our leaders and with individuals, they find those really, really helpful, because the workshop itself, it provides us a framework. It's like going and taking a lesson from a master musician. And we can be inspired from that, and we can learn the fundamentals. But then when we go home, unless I'm practicing this and unless I'm having an accountability session to be able to apply this, and I oftentimes need to be able to apply this over a series of weeks and months before it becomes more second nature to me in this journey. And that's where our implementation coaching sessions can be very, very helpful.
I'm going to come back to the second part of Brad's question, and this will be the last one I have for you. He wants to know, what can he expect to take away from a workshop?
Yeah. So different people will have different experiences in an Arbinger workshop. I can share with you, if I might, my first experience with Arbinger's work. I encountered the book. It was given to me by a senior leader in the Army, and an invitation to read the book. Several of us in a room were given this invitation to read the book, and I was intrigued. And so I picked up Leadership and Self-Deception. And I got to tell you, Sarah, it was a transformative experience. As I began reading it, I found a pen and a highlighter, and I began marking in the pages. And as I continued, I started to notice things. I started to notice things like, I do this, and I think I do that. And about 3/4 of the way through the book, and I'm not necessarily the sharpest tool in the shed, I came to the realization, oh, this guy in the book, Tom, this guy is me. I do this. And so what Arbinger's work does, whether it's through the reading of our book and then attending one of our on-site workshops or virtual workshops, it's a powerful, immersive experience where people are invited to see themselves in a way that perhaps they haven't before. They're invited to consider things in their own life that they perhaps haven't before. They're invited to consider how they see others, for example, at work and at home. And most often that experience, the comments that we get are things like, this has been the most powerful experience that I've ever gone through in a 2-day training. And they have this desire to start on this journey. That's what it is for me. So I could answer that by perhaps just saying that the workshop offers a very powerful opportunity to begin a transformative journey that I've yet to find the end of. I've been on it now for 10 years, and I continue to struggle with this every day. But that's what our work does, is it just invites us to continually strive to see others as people, and to make sure that I'm not part of the problem in other people's lives.
All right, Cameron, good to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Sarah. Pleasure.